week with conspiracy theorist David Icke live in studio. The British former soccer player was set to make his 11th visit to Australia to do a speaking tour. You guys have heard of him, right?
Exactly. Perhaps not everybody has. It's been suggested. He's been accused of having some really anti-Semitic views, some strange sci-fi implications with reptiles on Earth.
Well, he was supposed to come to Australia, but late yesterday he had his visa cancelled. It's believed he's been banned from entering our country because of claims he is anti-Semitic and is a Holocaust denier. David Icke joins us now live from Los Angeles for this TV exclusive. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I wish I was with you.
Now, I guess the first things first, let's clear it up. Are you anti-Semitic and do you deny that the Holocaust took place?
No, you see, if you can't discredit someone by telling the truth and you tell lies, there was an absolute catastrophe for Jewish people in Nazi Germany. And one of the things that I'm seeking to do and have done for 30 years is to highlight the Nazi mentality and the tyrannical mentality that's taking away freedoms all over the world. So, ironically, I'm the opposite of how I'm painted. There was a Labour Party candidate, I think his name's Josh Burns or something, who was quoted in the newspapers in the last week saying that I am campaigning for Holocaust denial to be taught in the schools.
So you believe the Holocaust did happen?
This is extraordinary.
So you believe the Holocaust did happen?
Of course a fantastic catastrophe happened for Jewish people in Nazi
You're not
Germany.
actually answering the question. Did the Holocaust happen? You keep saying catastrophe. That's the difference to Holocaust. Just clear that up. Is it a catastrophe or a Holocaust?
Am I denying the Holocaust happened? No, I'm not. Clearly, there was an unspeakable happening there, and we should make sure it doesn't happen again. But let me point this out. What do Nazis do, what do Stalinists do whenever they get power? They want to shut down all exposure of themselves, all information that gives people a different view of them. They burn books, they shut down public meetings. Now, what on earth is a so-called democracy allowing itself to use methods of tyrannies to shut down debate? We have thousands of Australians from all walks of life, of every age. When I spoke in Sydney last time, the age range was 15 to 90, who have bought tickets to make a decision to hear what I've got to say and then come to conclusions on what they hear, who now are being denied that right. And what has happened to me, it's not about me. It's actually about what this says about the current nature of Australian society, which I'm finding all over the world. The debate is being shut down. You have to believe certain narratives. Two of the things, by the way, that the Minister for Immigration, David Coleman, put in the statement for me not being allowed in was my views on vaccines and global warming. But let's have a debate then. Instead of shutting it down, you must believe this or you're not coming in the country. And as David Coleman admitted quite openly in this document, I have come into Australia to speak 10 times since 1997, and he admits in the document there's never been a problem. So why now? Because as I become more and more popular and more people come to the events, there's a more and more incentive to stop what I'm saying being circulated so that only one narrative is ever heard, and that's called a tyranny.
Where do these accusations that you're anti-Semitic come from then? You have famously controversial views, including that there are reptilian lizard people living amongst us and so forth. Where do these claims of anti-Semitism stem from?
What happens is you can name 90% of people in a book who are not Jewish, and 5–10% who are, and instead of saying, well, you know, in every community, in every culture, in every income bracket, you're going to have the same range of people. You're going to have lovely people, you're going to have okay people, and you're going to have a few psychopaths and manipulators. The problem is, I can say that about Chinese manipulators, I can say it about American manipulators, British manipulators, French manipulators, as I do, but you name anyone who's Jewish and immediately you're an anti-Semite. No, I don't care if they're Outer Mongolian. I care about what they're doing and,
So,
and producing the evidence for that. That's what it's about. And this is a way of shutting down legitimate investigation. If I am exposing the Italian mafia, am I condemning all Italian people? Crazy.
Okay. Speaking of crazy, David, do you believe that the world is being manipulated by shape-shifting reptiles that are possibly Jews who control the world through Rothschild? Is that
well, I mean,
basically it?
People would have to read my books for the detail about that. But let me say this: I'm
So
saying
that's a yes?
that there are family bloodlines that were seeded all over the world. And the
By whom?
ancient cultures.
By whom?
The ancient cultures. Well, by a non-human force. This is where you get in the Bible, for instance, the sons of God are interbred with the daughters of men, which is a story that you find in cultures all over the world,
So
whether it's the
aliens
African
seeded
culture or whatever.
people all over the world a long time ago, and they are resulting in being human forms, and they are lizards. You've been watching way too much V in the 80s.
You've not been
series.
doing enough research into the background. That's the problem. But the point is that I'm saying that these bloodlines were seeded everywhere in every culture. So where's this? Their Jews
What do they
come
take
from?
their face off when they go to bed, or what?
Sorry, I thought I was going to have an intelligent conversation here. Clearly not.
David,
are we going to have an intelligent conversation or what?
David,
What do you think?
I don't agree with a lot of what you said. I don't agree with your stance on immunisation. Let me finish. Let me finish for 1 second. I don't agree with your thoughts on climate change or reptilian people.
What I'm saying.
But what I do agree with is that you should actually be able to speak, because we live in a democracy, and I am a big supporter of free speech. And I think what happens when the government then stops people like you coming to the country to talk and to have their say, it actually emboldens people who support you, and then they jump on the bandwagon that the government is trying to shut down free speech, and there is a conspiracy theory to shut down free speech. What do you think about our government letting in people like convicted rapist Mike Tyson, wife basher Charlie Sheen? I mean, you've been stopped from entering the country because of your views. What do you think about people who are let in who've actually committed crimes?
That's up to people to decide if they think they are going to be a danger to society. I mean, if you're going to have a serial killer come into the country, then obviously you have to say, hold on a minute, do we want this person here? But what we're talking about in my case is not violence. I'm the most non-violent person you could ever meet. It's about information. It's about opinion. And you are quite right in what you've just said. Once you start having governments dictate what people can see and not see, you are in a tyranny. You're controlling the narrative. And surely in any free, open, mature society, people have access to all information available, and then they are free to make their opinion and their perceptions based on that information. Once you start skewing the information and saying you can hear this but you can't hear that, then that's how tyrannies work, and that's why Nazis burned the books and Nazis shut down public meetings, and the Stalinists did the same. That's what tyrannies do. And the fact that it's now happening in Australia, as it's happening in other countries, including my own, shows you that we're going down a very dark, dangerous Orwellian road, which I know from the last 24 hours, a lot of Australians of all walks of life are very, very concerned about the way this is going.
I think there's certainly an argument for free speech, David. I must confess I had not heard of you until I found out that you'd been banned. But I still feel like we haven't actually established the core reason, which is why Josh Burns and members of the Jewish community petitioned the minister to ban you. Do you actually believe that between 6 and 12 million Jews were killed by the Nazis and the Germans in World War II?
Between 6 and 12 million?
Yeah.
Well, you know, it could have been 5.5 million, it could have been 6 million, it could have been 6.5 million.
Do you believe millions of Jews were killed by the Nazis?
A vast number of people died, quite clearly. in concentration camps, run by Nazis, which...
Not just concentration camps, they were rounded up and shot like animals.
Which shut down the ability to expose what they were doing. If the Nazis had not have shut down opposition, how much of what was going on in Nazi Germany would people have known earlier? And maybe a lot of that would not have happened. This is what happens when you shut down the free flow of information.
David,
it should not be happening
David, you
in
just
democracies.
keep tiptoeing around what should be an easy and direct question, as Joe has asked. Do you believe millions of Jewish people were rounded up, shot, gassed during the war? Yes or no? Millions, yes.
Did
or
millions
no?
of people die in the concentration camps? Yes.
Okay,
Of
and
course
do
I
you
accept
know
that.
who the
ask
reptilians
the
are?
question.
Do you actually know, in today's society, who the reptiles are, who were seeded long ago and it's come through the generations? Do you know their names?
People would have to read my books for the detail.
Okay,
and the
I'll get your
background.
book today and I'll have a crack at it. But can you just give me one?
You can't do this in sound bites.
No, but can you
I know some of them.
Well, I'm asking you, do you know who they are? Are they in positions of high rank?
Yes, they are. They're in positions of power, absolutely.
Are they Jewish people who work for the Rothschild organisation?
Some of them are. Most of them aren't. So again, you know, when you're talking about a range of people from a range of backgrounds, why suddenly, because you mention someone who's Jewish, is that kind of, oh, no, you're anti-Semitic? Why aren't I anti-Chinese and anti-American and anti-British and anti-French when I name people from those countries? It's crazy. And so this is what happens when you...
Yeah, we have heard cutting down the debate.
You...
Yeah, you've said that about 7 or 8 times. Got it, David? I got to say, I'm with Sarah. I believe if people are crazy enough to pay money to hear you speak, you should be allowed to. That is called free speech.
Well, people are crazy enough to listen to this programme every morning. How crazy can you get?
Yay! Woo, woo, woo!
Indeed. David Icke, thanks for joining us.
Hey, David, you got a national audience. Don't complain.
Well, there you go. We'll see what goes from here.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks very much, David.
Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Bye.
All righty.
What?
You're wearing reptile pants today. Do you know that? You're wearing snakeskin pants.
Do you remember that
found
series
the half
in the
reptilian.
80s? Yeah, better believe it, people.
I do remember the series V.
The V series, Channel 10 ran it in the 80s. And this is where, oh, come on, help me, please.
I don't remember,
but visitors, and they were aliens living among us.
And they took over the world and became human and ran the world. And at night, they'd rip off their face and go to bed as a
Coneheads.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, so long story short, turns out that show was a documentary.